Hello, good afternoon. Stacy here. So I just wanted to quickly jump on and do this little video. I've had quite a few people in the last little while ask me what's been going on in my life. What's new this summer, what's going on, and I give them a little tidbit of what's happening, and some people are a little bit shocked and want to hear a little bit more about it. So I thought that I would, do this little video because I actually feel like it's quite fitting because of the time of year. And not even that, just also having had like the new moon and other things going on. But I feel like with the time of year it is, I feel like it's time to share. And that I think there's some people that might be able to take something away from it, some little tidbits. But this time last year, I was feeling like a really deep rumble, like something within me needed to shift. And I knew that I had been really stressed out, and there was a lot going on in my life that I was really uncertain about, a lot of things in my life that I didn't fully understand, and even had a lot of resentments on, and I was really stuck in some like deep places. And I knew at the time that something needed to shift. I needed to figure out what was going on. And even one of them was like my biggest source of stress was my relationship. So that ultimately was like the big thing that I was like, I need to know what's going on with this thing, moving forward, what's happening. And shortly after that, I had a friend approach me with a retreat in Bali, which sounded really awesome, but it also was something that I was a little bit resistant in because I felt like I shouldn't have to leave my country in order to figure out what was going on with me. I should be able to sit with myself and search my soul and figure it out. And she was really understanding about it, and we ended up having a really great chat with her and another event coordinator that was helping her with the event. And after talking and understanding that it was a really like high gradient event, it was kind of decided that I was going to go. I kind of decided I wanted to go. And space at the time actually felt like a really good thing. And ultimately that ended up getting postponed because Bali last year ended up having the volcano. So instead of doing the Bali trip, we had committed, because I was committed to the training, we had committed to a 12-week program. And this 12-week program was dedicated to transformation and deep transformation. And these are coaches who are, if not more committed or matches your commitment to your transformation. Waste no time, waste no life, just get into it and transform your life. And I'll be forever grateful to have coaches like that in my life. Anyway, so we ended up going into this 12-week program, and it came about that like my biggest source of stress at the time was my relationship and figuring out what was going on with that. But there wasn't and that was even before Bali. I knew that one of the big reasons why I wanted to go to Bali was because of that. But there was one concept that I hadn't fully understood that allowed a relationship that I was in to show up in my life, and many other things in my life to show up. And once I understood this concept, it was like a game changer. And through working with them, and there were days, I will not lie, it was not an easy 12-week course. There was moments that really tested, my willingness of growth. I'd say that growth was a really big core value for me, and there were moments where I wanted to just completely end the program. And then there were moments that I felt totally elated and empowered and ready to move forward, like what's next, and moments where I scraped my soul for answers. And that's kind of sometimes the best part about the growth, is when you go through those moments of like the mud and the muckiness that exists within you to come out on the other side with some clarity. But the one concept that I understood after our program, and it took a while, was the concept of self-love and the decision to love yourself and to love yourself first. And that decision, when I actually understood that, it was like I started to see all of these belief systems that were, holding me in a place of stuckness. That, finally having these, coaches that could help me through it. It was like it gave me an opportunity to finally move in my life, to give me some movement. Because once I was able to understand these beliefs, I could be almost set free. And one of the things that kept me in that relationship was this fear that, I would lose his love. And we've been together for a really long time, and that wasn't something that I wanted to do. But I also understood that there is a love that exists out there, a greater love that I'm capable of giving, and that I'm also worthy of receiving. And that that love piece was really hard for me, because here I was in a comfortable relationship with someone that I knew loved me. But then at the same time, there was still a part of me that was, scared to leave, because not for my safety, but because I felt like maybe no one else would love me. And deep down, I had a really deep belief that maybe I was just unlovable. And that was part of why I had relationships I'd had in the past, and why I couldn't actually bring in and call in this beautiful relationship. But I never equated the self-love piece to anything. And I never would have said that I had an issue with self-love until I finally spoke to someone outside of my noise in here that helped me see that clearly. And this program was absolutely amazing for that. And honestly, it was like, once I saw those beliefs, it was like I saw years of decisions that I had made in that lack of space of love for myself that resulted in the world around me. And after I saw all of that, I couldn't unsee it. And after that had to come some self-forgiveness, because I was the one that allowed myself to be in all of those relationships and to allow all those things to happen. And I was the one who made many decisions, and the decision not to love myself enough to set a standard. So it was like, once I understood that concept of self-love, it was like, okay, well, now it's time for you to set a new standard. Set a standard for yourself as far as a human being, and physically, what do you want for yourself, to your home, to your career, to your friendships. What kind of friends do you want to have around you? And after the last 8 months of what I've been through, I really know who's my solid core. But you set a new standard for your relationship, and you can set that standard, but are you going to hold it? So that was another piece that I had to stick to was, you set this new standard, are you going to hold this standard? So I had spoken to the person I was in a relationship with, and I was met with a bit of a no, that he not that he was totally happy with where things were, but didn't really feel like much, I guess, really needed to change. So in that moment, it was like, okay, well, now I have another decision to make. I can either go back to the way things were, or I can say, no, this is my new standard, and I'm going to set it, and I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to love myself enough to move forward with this new standard for myself and for love for me. And so I chose to hold it. And after 7.5 years of being with someone, ended that relationship. And, the decision to move forward was clear, based on the fact that, we were no longer growing together in life, and we were no longer growing together in love. So I had to make the choice to move on. And so moving on looked like, okay, well, where do I go? Because those who know me know that I'm not from the Niagara region. I'm actually from east of Kingston, and I moved here with him to, be close to his family. They were going through a difficult time. So I moved up here, and I was fully committed. So over the last 5 to 6 years, I've made some really great friends, some really deep core ones. And so there was a part of me that's like, okay, now it's time for you to decide where you're going to go. Are you going to stay here? Or are you going to go back to where you're from? And there was a part of me that's like, I didn't really want to leave. I didn't want to leave my friends. I didn't want to leave a life that I did actually somewhat create here. And, but at the same time, there was that, familiar and loving call and safety of my family that at the time felt really comfortable, and something that I really would think about. And I was torn. It felt between these two worlds that had never really bridged together. It was like I had this world with my family and everybody, east of Kingston, and then I had this life here in the Niagara region that had never actually bridged. So I felt like I was torn between the two places. And in all this, it was like I'm still trying to, find an apartment. So I'm like, I have to move out of this house. So I'm like looking for places. My stuff is packed. I don't have a place to live yet. And I'm back and forth and I was really overwhelmed. And one of my amazing coaches reminded me to just get into my heart. And anytime I get like that, I have to remind myself to get back to my heart, because that's what guides me to what's real and the things that I really, really need and want. And when I finally got quiet, what I realized what I needed was friendship. And my friends were here. So my decision to stay came from that. And I realized, just because I'm no longer with this person doesn't mean I need to leave the Niagara region. And so once I made that decision to stay, I went online, I said, I'm going to find my new place tonight, because I'd been in all these battles between other people and applications. And I went online, I found this beautiful home that I'm sitting in right now, and I love it. I come home to flowers, I come home to hanging baskets, I come home to water fountains. It's bright, it's inspiring. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. You know, and like I remember the day that I actually sat in front of this place. I hadn't been fully approved for the place yet, and I had gone to another location in St. Catharines, and I remember being in that apartment, and it had everything I didn't want in it, and anything that I would say, like, I'm looking for a new place, but these are non-negotiables. It had every single one of the things that I would not want in an apartment. And I remember it was as if like my higher self plopped herself next to me and said in the most loving tone, said, Stacy, are we done yet? Can we go look at places we're worthy of? Because you're not going to live here. And so that was it. I got in the car. I remember driving by and sitting right in front of this place, and I looked up and I said, that's my new home, and that's where I'm going to change lives. And shortly after, I moved in. And I remember a journal entry from January that said, having my own place seems like a dream, but here I am, and I love my beautiful home. And there's many things, you know, like while all of this was happening, I was doing, you know, different events, and I was going to, you know, see different speakers and continuing on in my work and life outside of what's going on within Stacy, and the external worlds and decisions I was making, and finding this new courage for myself, and finding this new love for myself that I had never had. I ended up at an event. It was a firewalk event at the end of March. And I remember even going to that event to try to prove to myself that I could live life without this person, because that's all I ever saw was life with this person. And here I was walking away from it. And so I remember going to that one, and what came out of it had nothing to do with that. I got very clear on what I'm passionate about. I got very clear on how we let fear stop us from being able to do anything in life, and experience life, to actually live life. And I realized that, you know, I can create a really great life. What I want for my life means a really great life, and that I didn't need anyone's permission to do that. I didn't need anyone's validation on that life that I actually wanted to create, because it was a life of my own design, a life of my own choice. And I find sometimes that, you know, I ended up going to a second one as well a couple weeks after that. It was such a beautiful event, because I ended up doing it with two people that I had done my 12-week program with. So it was a nice little full circle event to do it with them, and an honorary Amy member. And the whole thing that came out of that for me was this follow-up to the first one, was how do you create a great life? And I came out with 4 things. And the first one was to stay true to your passions, follow your passions. The second one, stay true to yourself. The third one was love yourself unconditionally. And the fourth one was trust that something greater is working with you. And so I had this beautiful, beautiful event and this beautiful moment. And what they've taught me, and it's crazy because firewalking was never something I ever saw myself doing, let alone something I saw myself thriving in, and finding a really deep love for. But what I've come to learn is that, you know, when you push your comfort zone, you create massive room for change. And coaching has always been a part of my life, and will always continue to be a part of my life, whether I'm receiving coaching or providing it. And you know, I know for some people, coaching is a comfort zone pusher. To talk to someone that you don't really know about something you might be working with. And honestly, for me, it took talking to people outside of, like I said, my noise, to help me see certain patterns and beliefs. And sometimes we do a disservice to ourselves when we talk to certain people about what's going on with us, and then we're met with this, you know, rejection or all this judgment, but we're not really talking to the right people about it. Or showing our vulnerability and our truth to the right people at the time. And I know what it feels like to feel stuck in something, and not really know why. You know, if it's something stuck in your subconscious without sometimes the proper questions or, you know, conversation, it's hard to sometimes understand why you're stuck. And that's where I was prior to Bali, was feeling this, like, I feel really stuck and I don't know how to get out of it. And it took having some really great coaches to help me through it. And And what I've realized over the time is that the limits that you set on your comfort zone are the limits that you place on your growth. And nobody sets that comfort zone other than you. So I ask people to sit with that, to see what that's like if you were to live a life without ever really making room for change, without making space for change, or growing in yourself. Because once you finally make room for that, to open yourself up to coaching or events, it's like you create that space for change, and in that, your change is going to look different than my change, but it'll be authentically genuine to you, like mine has for me. And through all of this, it's like I've made room within me because I've gotten rid of all these fears, and even like fears of rejection have come up in the last few months that I've been able to understand. Fear of rejection isn't isolated to dating. It can show up in your business. It can show up in your friendships. It can show up even within your family. If you're sharing things and scared that they're going to reject you, why would you share who you really are, right? So what has happened was, once I made room for all these things to come out, it's made room for other things to come up. And it's crazy. In just the last, couple months, I feel this overwhelming embodiment of feminine energy that I have not experienced before, probably ever in my life. And it's actually like a really beautiful thing, and also something that's been like challenging to get used to because it's not something that I'm used to feeling. But it's something that I fully welcome and something that I fully embrace. And there's moments that I have to, I'm working on my confidence and being more confident around, new people, around sharing what I have to offer to parents at a center that I work at, and even more confident around men. I was with the same man for 7.5 years, so maybe I'm a little rusty when it comes to talking to men. But just something of like working on my confidence and what that's like as being this feminine woman that I'm not used to, and it's okay, and I welcome this change and I welcome the growth. But what has also come up is this overwhelming desire to assist others and serve others on their passion for growth and living an awakened life. And I know that there's a lot of people who are starting to look at what's going on with them to say, maybe it's time for a change. So I welcome that, and I welcome you. And if I can do anything to help you and support you on that journey, I would love to speak to you about it in a private message, or booking like a phone call or a telecall together and chat and see what we can do to help you move and get out of that stuckness. So I love you. It's so nice to meet you, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day.